Welcome, everybody, to Casting for Two, the podcast with your host, Chris. I am that guy. Welcome, everybody. This is episode number 147. Yeah. I got a good guest for you guys today. But, as always, I would just like to ask, how are you doing? You guys doing good? I'm a little sleepy. Yeah, whatever. So what? You want to fight about it? No. And see, I'm editing this episode in the future, so I don't know what to talk about. I don't know what current events are going on. Is Trump president? I don't know. But when the time this episode airs, we will know, and it'll still be no because elections aren't until November or so. So technically, I do know. Whatever. If you guys would like to comment on the show, positive or negative, whichever, go to iTunes or Google Play Music or even Stitcher and leave me some comments, some love, whichever. I just like to hear from you all. And I guess I should get into my guest for today. Yeah? Let's do that. My guest is one Mr. Valentine. It's just Valentine. I just added the Mr. because. And he does this thing called country jazz. And I was very intrigued on what country jazz is because I've never heard of that style of music. It shouldn't surprise me that it exists because, now there's whole great spectrum of music coming out. But I was very excited to hear, what country jazz sounded like and chat with Valentine about how he does the music. In this little Minisode. It's a Minisode coming at you. So you know what? Let's just get into it. So sit back, relax, and Chris, cue the music, please. Hi, Valentine.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. This is Chris from Casting for Two.
Yeah, waiting for your call.
Okay, right on. How's your morning going off, or your afternoon going so far?
Heavy. It's always heavy around here, man, Everything I touch is heavy. That's just the way it is. I wish it weren't, but it is.
There you go. So this is a pretty loose show where we can chat about anything, but the one thing I do like to know is when did you find out you had a thing for music?
I was pretty young, I always had kind of a rhythmic sense and was writing songs when I was a little kid walking around the fields, not writing, but just kind of they came to me, but I never did anything about it. Unfortunately, it didn't come up. And then, I grabbed a guitar around my late teens, but, guitar, maybe if that was a piano, things would have been different. Mm-hmm. A lot of it depends on the instrument you grab. My instrument would be piano. That's what I use to compose. I can't play because I never took the time because I'm too busy doing everything else to learn how to play. And then, for example, like I recorded my stuff in Nashville with these players in Nashville. I mean, mm-hmm. They're phenomenal. I had people visit me when I lived there for 2 years recording, and I had people visit me who had played all their lives, mm-hmm. and they came to Nashville, and we'd go out to clubs where people are playing like to 20 people, and these guys, after the third, 3 or 4 people, and every single time, about the 4th or 5th club, they just go, they snap, and they'd go, oh my God, I couldn't even get a gig in this town. Like, where are these musicians from, and all that stuff. But they're really phenomenal musicians. But they had a little trouble with my stuff. Some of those chords, mm-hmm. It's especially guitar. Like you didn't get a lot of when you play. It's country jazz, but it's got a guitar in it. It's got some like ride cymbal stuff from rock, but it doesn't have a kick drum. You tell people who are playing country radio or rock, you say you're not using the kick drum, and they're like, "Oh, that's the foundation of music of Western music for the last 50 years is the kick drum." It's like, oh, and you're not using it, so that throws them a bit. And then they'd always say my emphasis of my beat is backwards, which I thought was another interesting thing. But the chords, when you get a guitarist trying to ape piano chords on the guitar neck, and they can't, the only guy who could play my stuff really was a classical guitarist guy, young classical guitar who could find those inversions. But I was like Danny Parks, who played guitar for me, and he was like, "That's a heavy metal chord," and then he'd like play like 3 very quick famous renditions of heavy metal chords, and I'd say, "Yeah, try it in the third inversion with the melody note on top," and it'd be like, and it would sound beautiful or moody or but not, you couldn't find any heavy metal in that. But it's so difficult to find it, first of all, and then to make the changes fast enough, almost impossible. So you have to play my chords, my rhythms have to be played on piano. They really can't be played. Oh, I got the other guy to play it on acoustic, classical guy, but they're just moody stuff, But that's only about 20% of it. The rest of it's relatively straightforward, But the inversions are there often. Rarely is it a chord that's not inverted.
Interesting. And when did you know that country jazz was something you wanted to actually, pursue doing? A style, I should say.
Country jazz was interesting because what I did is, when I was in New York, we'd go listen to me and my buddy Vitt, I was like 20 when I was a model with Elite, and he was in town, and he was a jazz singer, came from L.A., and we'd go out and listen to Ray Bryant and Red Mitchell at Bradley's, for example, and Sarah Vaughan playing to 30 people, 40 people. I mean, it's just, back then nobody gave a shit about blues or jazz, so we were seeing the greats up close and personal. It was crazy. And they were, older, and nobody was into it. It was the disco era, because we were going to I was going to Studio 54 as a model, and during its heyday, right before the AIDS crisis destroyed that party. But that was, we were out doing jazz. So I was writing kind of Broadway show tunes at the time, and then I went overseas for 5 years and wrote Broadway show tunes, had a little stint with the Singapore Orchestra for a little while. Probably should have pursued that, but, was studying government and kept going. And then, so that library is still around, but that was sort of a Broadway show tunes meets big band kind of 50-song library. Then I didn't do any songs for about 10 years, and then I was at a wedding helping this guy after the wedding, the father of the bride, and we were driving home, and I said, "Oh, you're in the doghouse now." I said, "Yeah, even the dog is in the doghouse now." Then I wrote that, "Even the dog is in the doghouse now," that doghouse song. And then I didn't do anything with music for another 10 years. And then I did a couple movies that didn't, sell or anything. So I realized that wasn't going to happen. So I went back to that doghouse song, which was really the first country jazz song I did. And was no stranger to country, because when I grew up in the Shenandoah River and the Blue Ridge Mountains, we'd go to Watermelon Park, which was the site of the first Bluegrass Festival, which bluegrass being another new genre by Bill Monroe, made famous by Flatt and Scruggs, who would play at that Bluegrass Festival. So I grew up listening to them on the banks of the Shenandoah. So I went and put together a sextet package with a guy named Jay Verne, who's a really sentimental piano player. He plays all my piano. And he was doing jazz at night on Music Row. He had a studio on Music Row, and then he was doing country radio demos. Back in the day when if you wanted to sell a song, you would write the song, and then you go to a demo studio, and they would record it for you, and then you'd hand that recording over to somebody who pushed songs to stars, and the stars would listen to 10 or 20 at a time and say, "Oh, okay, that one, that one, that one," and then you'd get your royalties if it went through. Of course, Napster destroyed all that, but that's what his studio was. And but he was doing jazz at night. So he had these other guys like Robbie Turner, who was the pedal steel. He does all my pedal steel playing. He was like a 15-year-old protege that Waylon Jennings plucked and used him for 30 years until he died, basically. He's the pedal steel player. And he was like, I never let theory get in the way of good sound. Most of these guys play by ear, but they also have some theory behind them, and then applying theory to my music is very difficult. And then they don't read music, they read number charts.
Oh, okay.
So everything has to be translated to number charts, and I could not, for the life of me, find someone who could adequately transfer my number charts to where they would transfer the thing to a number chart, and then I'd hand it to a musician, and they would play it, and I said, that's not how it goes. So I ended up having to learn how to write number charts myself, just so I could hand it to somebody, and they would play what I wanted. But they don't do inversions in number charts that you can do like in music. All my Vegas show tunes I wrote out in music, and then Billy Tragesser played the piano vocal demos on all those. But Aeolian mode, jazz player, little different approach, comfortable with all those crazy kind of Chick Corea type of changes and inversions and stuff. So.
And so when you talked about earlier about touring and or performing live, is there a certain song that you do that you love to perform in front of people?
I've never performed in front of people at all, ever. Just recorded. I'm more of a...
Well, is there a song then that you look, that when you first recorded, you're like, oh my gosh, this is the song that I'm really excited for?
Well, there's about 10 of those. The library's 43 songs, so say if there's, one or two per album, which is usually the case, then there's probably 12 or 15 that I like them all. I mean, this was all whittled down from a library of 250 songs, so I took the best 40 out of those. So these are all pretty much, and then specific to what I thought would fit into country jazz, and then some of them actually went a little bit rock. So maybe out of that library, about 5 of them actually a little more rock, and some of them are a little more ballady. I like Doghouse and People. Doghouse is a special place for me because it's that one song in between both libraries that kind of started the country jazz thing. I would have to say, to answer that question, I'd just say Doghouse. But I like Saddle Up and Dreaming of You and People and Fall in Love and Go Out's on there, Love Nest, Baby Blue Jeans. There's a lot of them. And they're all different.
And so for the people at home who want to keep up with what you're doing or check out any of your music, where can they do that? ValentineSongs.com or CountryJazz.com. And I'm cranking up the radio now. I'm going to put out a radio, so you just go to ValentineSongs.com. You can just play the radio. Like if you're in your car or something, just go to ValentineSongs.com and hit play, and then it'll play the 15 songs that are currently released. I've given up on trying to make money off of them. Unless people want it in their playlist, and they can go buy it for 99 cents from iTunes, and I'll see maybe 30 cents of that. Yeah. Wow, that's all good. Well, thank you.
The radio thing is something, because they had it on iTunes Radio. I was like, what's going on there? I didn't give you permission for that. So I've taken it off of iTunes Radio, and I'm putting it on. If I'm going to give it away, I'm going to give it away myself, Just go to valentines.com and play the radio, or go to Country Jazz. I'm trying to find some other people. There's a guy named Derek Hoke who wrote a song, I forget the name, a cool song that I heard him play at Third and Lindley in Nashville, and it's kind of a country jazz song. I mean, it would qualify as country jazz. So I'm trying to find, if I had an A&R person, I'd have him just go and find me, country jazz songs. And those filters, like Pandora and some of these other places, they have these filters that recommend, if you like this song, you might like this song. But those filters don't really cut it with what I'm doing because they're too sort of broad. They're more the big categories,
That makes sense. Yeah, you'll be listening to one artist, and then they'll recommend, like U2, something totally random.
Yeah, well, even in the same area, but just not really, because country jazz is a new genre. They don't know how to they don't know how to
Right.
filter it. So that's another issue. But I'm trying to find other country jazz people for the countryjazz.com site so they can just go there and put their stuff up there. I'm not going to charge anybody for anything. It's just a place to, and then just add their stuff to Country Jazz Radio, and then people can just punch in Country Jazz Radio and just listen to a playlist.
There you go. There you go. That sounds great. And so, Valentine, I feel like I should let you go. Continue doing what you're doing, and having fun making music. And keep doing it because it sounds great.
Great. I really appreciate the call. Thanks, man.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.